You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Samia Sayed. Welcome to the show. Coming up, we have an interview with Amal Mohamud for her work promoting Muslim minorities in media. But first, the headlines. Saskatchewan First Nations slam Freedom Convoy for cultural appropriation, preferential treatment. Anti-Muslim rhetoric lurks behind Freedom Convoy leaders. Ontario gives $200,000 to Muslim organizations to combat rising hate during pandemic. Indian court blocks Muslim woman from wearing hijab. And now the details. First Nations in Saskatchewan have joined other Indigenous communities to denounce the self-acclaimed Freedom Convoy. They call the use of Indigenous instruments in the rally ignorant acts of cultural appropriation. Chief Bobby Cameron of the Federation of Sovereign Nations said in a statement Tuesday that the convoy was an insult to First Nations chiefs and their communities who have worked tirelessly to curb the spread of the pandemic. The statement referred to the heavy government hand that met Indigenous protests in Alberta 2020 and 2021, in comparison to the Freedom Convoy, which has been allowed to continue. Anti-hate advocates are drawing attention to the anti-Muslim opinions behind the Freedom Convoy's leaders. Benjamin Dichter and Tamara Lich are alleged to have made anti-Muslim comments at political rallies in the past and are listed as board members in a recent Twitter post by the convoy. According to the Canadian Anti-Hate Network's analysis, Lich has made Islamophobic comments about the Muslim Brotherhood taking foot in Canada. Dichter allegedly said at a People's Party of Canada convention that political Islam is rotting away at our society like syphilis. Today marks the 15th day of the truckers' protest. Ontario's Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, announced funding for anti-Islamophobia resources on Tuesday as part of the Priorities and Partnerships funding COVID-19 equity support. The Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism, Parm Gill, and MP Khalid Rashid joined Lecce at Olive Grove School for the announcement. $150,000 was dedicated to the Muslim Association of Canada to create more online anti-racist resources for students, parents, and educators. Mental health hotline Nasiha received $50,000 to aid Muslim and racialized callers in need of support. Toronto police reported an increase in hate crimes by 51% in 2020, trending upwards in 2021. The High Court in the southern Indian state of Karnataka yesterday blocked students from wearing religious garments until a case on the matter is decided. A 3-judge panel was hearing the case to decide if schools and colleges can order students not to wear the hijab or headscarves in classrooms. The case will be heard again on Monday. Protests were organized in cities in support of women demanding to wear the hijab in schools and colleges. Indian Muslims have witnessed a deterioration of the right to practice their faith under the rule of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his right-wing Bharatiya Janata Party. That's it for the news. Now with us, we have Amal Mohamud. Amal is a first-generation Somali Canadian who has several years of experience as a director, producer, writer, and journalist. In 2019, Amal was given the Diversity Magazine's AC Junior Achievement Award. She was also the recipient of the Phil Fraser Award by the National Black Coalition of Canada. Welcome, Sister Amal. It's great to have you on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, thank you.
And we are definitely very excited to interview you today. Sister Amal, we invited you here today because we heard about your short film, Aaron's Faith in Islam. Can you tell us about the film?
Yes, so the film, I produced it with CBC Edmonton. So the documentary is about a young man named Aaron and how he converted to Islam. So he converted to Islam 15 years ago, and in the film he talks about his journey, his experience, why he chose Islam, what it's like to be a white Canadian Muslim man living in this generation, especially like from Alberta. And so in the film, you get to hear his story. He's very involved in the community. He's one of those people that, you know, everybody in Edmonton knows him. So I'm really happy that I got to share his story. And yeah.
So you say that everyone knew his story in the community, but how did you specifically hear of Aaron's story?
It's funny. We have like a lot of mutual friends, and I got to hear Aaron speak at different Muslim community events in the past. So I remember the first time hearing his story, I thought, oh my God, this guy is so interesting. I need to work with him one day. And then when the opportunity came, I thought, okay, this is like the perfect time. Yeah, like with Aaron was such an amazing opportunity. It was very important for me to do this story because in Edmonton, there's been like a lot of recent attacks against the Muslim community. So this was like my opportunity to give the Muslim community a platform to share their story. You know, we all know that there's a lack of diversity when it comes to Canadian television. There's a lot of negative stereotypes when it comes to the Muslim community. So it's as a producer, as a Muslim woman working in Edmonton in the media industry, I thought, you know, this is my responsibility. I need to make sure that our community is seen in a positive, light.
Mhm. What is one key moment that you can tell to our viewers that was covered in the film?
Um, he gets to talk about how his family reacted. So their reaction was kind of surprising. And yeah, but overall, I think Aaron, like hearing his story, like from how it all began, it was
Mhm.
very touching. It was very inspiring to me, especially like knowing that he converted at like such a young age. I thought that was like, mashallah, you know?
Yeah. How was the film received by the people in the community? You already told us that Aaron was well known within the community, but how did people react once they actually saw his story on film?
I think I don't know. I think this is like the first time CBC Edmonton has done a story like this. So I thought, so a lot of the feedback that I was getting was not only just from Edmonton, but it was all over like Canada. A lot of people were moved, inspired,
Mhm.
and I even got like non-Muslims who were sharing some positive messages, and that really, really made me happy. You know, I didn't expect the reaction to be like this. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous. Like I mentioned, we don't get a lot of representation in the media, so doing a story like this was huge, you know. But no, alhamdulillah, like the messages that I've been getting online and in person were very positive, so I'm very happy.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing us some details on the film. How can people watch it if they want to view it?
Yes, for sure. So they can go on YouTube. So just type in CBC Edmonton and you can see it on their platforms.
Mhm. Now, we also invited you here today, Sister Amal, because it is also Black History Month. And I want to ask you, as a first generation Canadian Muslim, what inspired you to work in the media?
Growing up, I loved watching television, and I remember thinking like, well, how come I don't see someone that looks like me on screen? And as I got older, I realized, okay, like I need to make a difference. I need to make sure that the next generation, my future kids, can be able to relate and see someone that looks like them on screen. So, because of the lack of diversity growing up, that kind of like really motivated me.
Mhm.
And again, like I mentioned, like having your communities be, shown in a negative light constantly, it just wants to, like, for me that was my motivation. I thought,
Mhm.
okay, if I want people to see the Muslim and Black community, not just the Muslim community but like also the Somali and Black community, if I want people to see us in a positive light, I need to showcase those stories, right?
Mhm. Now, Aaron's faith in Islam was not the only project that you worked on. You've worked on multiple others. Can you tell us, what does your starting point look like when you are browsing ideas for your projects?
Honestly, it's literally like I'll be watching something or like I'll be talking to my friends, and then like an idea will just pop in my head and I'll be like, okay, like I need to tell this story, right? So I got to do this documentary with AMI Accessible Media,
Mhm.
and the reason why I did it is because I realized that when it came to like people with disabilities, there was a lack of like representation in those stories. So I thought, okay, like I want to be able to showcase a community who's doing something great, And I was able to reach out to Easter Seals Alberta. They do a lot of virtual programs for people with disabilities during the pandemic. And so when I reached out to them, I told them, hey, like, I think what you guys are doing is amazing. And I would love to do a story on you. So yeah, it went well. And before that, I was able to work with Muslim Kids TV. I worked on a Quran series, just interviewing kids, having them showcase, you know, their Quran skills, reading Arabic skills. And before that, actually, my career started off with Omni Television. And I was a producer for the program Somalis in Alberta. So basically, my job was to cover stories across Edmonton within the Somali community. So I've always been passionate about diversity, and I just love the idea of going into different communities and just being able to showcase their story.
You mentioned one of your projects, Easter Seals Alberta, which is a documentary. Can you tell us what this covers?
Yes. So basically, Easter Seals Alberta. So the documentary is about how they are implementing this new virtual program that's helping people with disabilities during the pandemic. So these virtual programs, they have games, they have like workshops, all virtually, and it's just a way for them to like make friends, build that connection, because we all know that it can be very lonely during the pandemic. You know, it's hard to socialize, it's hard to make friends, it's hard to go into the community and enjoy yourself. So this was a wonderful opportunity for them to do something at home that was catered to for them.
And before we run out of time, I do have one more question for you, and that is, as a Somali Canadian, did you find that you faced any barriers in the media industry?
I would say yes. It was a lot harder for me to start off my career just because there wasn't a lot of opportunities. And I was actually told, like, from the beginning that, like, I knew it was going to be harder for me. You know, I knew that someone that looked like me, you know, Black, Muslim, female, I would have to work 10 times harder, right? But to me, if anything, I look at it as an advantage, you know, because I represent all those communities. I feel like for me, that's like another motivation for me to try to do as much as I can and be the best that I can be.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Amal, for joining us today for our interview. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your inspiration, and good luck for all your future projects.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You were watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. This was your host, Samia Sayed. That's it from our channel tonight. Make sure to subscribe and like our video for more Canadian Muslim content. Stay safe, and until next time.